Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night. We have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the Odessa region, where the Russians continue hunting and destroying the Ukrainian vehicles and weapons of the Western production. And furthermore, the Russians during the previous night attacked the Odessa port infrastructure and port facilities, and as a result of those attacks, few commercial ships were destroyed. At least the Russians provide us video with a very poor quality. In this video, according to the author of this video, the Russians attacked the commercial ship that brought Western weapon, maybe cruise missiles or HIMARS missiles, on the territory of Ukraine. So this is the episode, this is exactly the moment when the Russians attacked, and then we can see a very heavy, very big explosion. Now let's move further and let's talk about the Dnipro region, because the most important video during the previous night and during the previous 12 hours we received exactly from this territory. Let's take a look. The Russian sources published the video how they managed to discover the Patriot system. As you can see from this screen, the Russians are saying that in this point between these fields and these tree lines, they managed to discover at least 4 launching systems of the Patriot air defense Patriot system. Later the Russians discovered 2 raiders, the raider IN-MCQ-104. This is not just radar, this is combat control cabin, and the Russians managed to discover the NMPQ-65 radar of the Patriot system. Then the Russians were waiting, because those may be decoys. They were waiting until they receive additional geolocations and real confirmation that those were real Patriot systems. And when the Russians discovered that the Patriot systems were completely real, the Russians attacked this territory with a significant number of Iskander missiles. As a result of those attacks, the Russians destroyed once again IN-MPQ-64 radar, IN-MCQ-104 combat control cabin, launcher of the Patriot air defense missile system, and personnel of the anti-aircraft missile division of the armored forces of Ukraine. Obviously, the significant losses for Ukraine. Now let's move further and let's talk about the South Donetsk direction, where the Russians continue moving in the northwestern direction from the city of Vuhledar. During the previous night, we got some geolocations and some map corrections. As you can see, the Russians managed to improve their positions in the vicinity of this facility, and the Russian sources published the video of how the Russian forces were attacking the facility that located to the northwest of Vadiana. Based on this video, this is a real confirmation, real video. We adjusted the map in Russian favor, and in this video we can see the Ukrainian FPV drone operators were attacking abandoned Russian vehicles that most likely were attacking the facilities between the village of Bogoyavenka and the village of Vadiana. So this is the situation once again. This is the map on the 9th of October, and this is the map on the 10th of October. Now let's move further and let's talk about the Kurakhove Gornyak Cauldron. Today we got 2 geolocations, almost the same stories, but with one important difference. For example, in this video we can see several Russian FPV drone attacks on Ukrainian equipment, communication equipment that Ukrainians still have possibilities to use. It is very important to destroy every kind of connection that Ukrainians might have between Gornyak and Kurakhove with the mainland before the beginning of full-scale encirclement and so on. And the Russian source also published very interesting this video, and this is very interesting video, by the way. In this video we can see the process how civilians were leaving the town of Gornyak and the village of Kurakhove. So right in front of your screens we can see Russian FPV drones and 2 civilian cars that were trying to escape the massacre and disaster that is going to happen in this area very soon. The Russian FPV drone recognized these vehicles as civilian vehicles, and he didn't attack them. Of course, he decided to make a double check, and he was following the cars until the moment when the Ukrainians left the cars, so to understand and to be 100% sure that these cars are real civilians. And after that, the Russians, when he got necessary information, he returned back to the, let's say, Kurakhove Gornyak territory. So this is very important, that the Russians are not attacking every single vehicle and every single car that is moving between the cities and villages. They try first to get 100% proofs that these cars towers belong to, let's say, military personnel, and only after that the Russians attacking them. Now let's move further. We got additional geolocation, additional updates from the city of Selydove. During the previous 24 hours, the Russians managed to improve their position significantly along the railways between the village of Tsukurina and the village of Vishneva. We have geolocation that confirm additional Russian progress. The video was published by the Ukrainian sources. In this video, we can see the Ukrainian FPV drone that was flying above the positions of the armed forces of Russian Federation, and the Ukrainians were FPV droning the Russian forces. Based on this video, we have adjusted the map in Russian favor. Furthermore, some pro-Russian resources reported that during the previous few days, the Russians managed to break through the Ukrainian defense belt and to get as close as possible to the village of Vishneva itself. If you remember, during the previous video, we were talking a lot that most likely the Russians are planning to move in this direction with the purpose to cut the city of Selydove from the mainland. Also, we have additional changes on the ground in the eastern part of Selydove and the northwestern part of Mikhailovka. In this video, we can see another video how the Ukrainians were FPV droning the edge Russian positions. Based on this video, we have adjusted the map as well. So let's compare the map between 2 days. This is the situation on the ground on the 9th of October. So the Russians improved their positions along the railways, and we turned the contested area in the northwest of Mikhailovka into the territory of Russian control. So this is the progress. Now let's move further and let's talk about the Toretsk New York agglomeration. The Russians continue offensive operation. The Ukrainians are suffering significant losses, and as for now, the Ukrainians still haven't managed to stabilize the lines. Today we got additional changes on the ground according to neutral mappers. Neutral mappers are saying that Ukrainians were forced to fall back completely from Zabalka district and from the fields between the district of Zabalka and the main part of Toretsk itself. And furthermore, according to neutral mappers, the Russians managed to answer the territory of mine itself, and currently there are very heavy clashes. Let's compare the map for the previous 3 days. So this is the situation on the ground on the 8th of October. The Ukrainians were controlling the most of the Balka district. Most likely on the 8th of October there were already clashes on the territory of this block, but we didn't have any geolocations during those days. And on the 9th of October we started receiving first updates about the Russian significant progress in this territory. And as for the 10th of October, the Russians improved their positions on the territory of mine itself, and the Russians are about to begin storming the landfill in the Terikon that located behind the mine of Toretsk Vuhledar. Significant progress. Now let's talk about the Siversk direction, because the most interesting and weird updates are coming exactly from this territory. If you remember, during the previous, we have already discussed this in the previous video, and once again, during the previous months, the Ministry of Defense of Russian Federation reported that as a result of clashes, the Russians managed to establish complete control over the village by the name of Vyimka. Furthermore, the week ago, the Russian sources reported that as a result of clashes, the Russians established complete control over Verkhnyokamyanskaya. And during the previous months, the Russians reported about control over Belogorovka, and yesterday we saw the video with the Russian flag on the territory of the village by the name of Grigorovka. And obviously, all these events, all these let's say attacks, and all these updates are very important, and they are very significant because they changed the entire configuration of the Siversk direction completely. So if all these updates are correct, then we can start counting days when Siversk is going to fall. But yesterday in the evening, few Russian military experts start publishing updates that all these events, all these let's say progresses on the ground in the vicinity of Vyimka, Verkhnyokamyansk and Grigorovka are fake. They are wrong, and it's just a lie from some Russian military forces that are interested to show some progress on the ground, but they don't have this progress on the ground. And as for the 10th of October, we received a significant number of updates from different neutral mappers that show additional changes on the ground, not in Ukrainian nor in Russian favor, but as a contested area and the gray zone. We did the same because we have too many information from too much reliable resources that the situation is very complex and complicated on the line of combat contact between Belogorovka and Vyimka. So once again, we have returned back the territory between Grigorovka in Bilogorovka into contested area. We have returned back the territory of Verkhnyokamyansk in contested area, because once again the video with the Russian flag that was published on the 8th of October, according to some pro-Russian resources, was dropped on the roof, and, let's say by FPV drone, by drone, but not by person or a soldier itself. So very complicated situation. And the video in the area in the vicinity of Vimka was also turned back into contested area. So let's wait for additional clarification from the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation. But I would like to point your attention that currently there is a very big fight, very big scandal between Russian officials and Russian bloggers that made their conclusions and forced us to change maps and forced us to think that maybe the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation is sometimes lying to us when telling about this or that progress. So we are waiting for the development of the situation, because obviously this situation will not end like this. Obviously the Ministry of Defense of Russian Federation will take an action, and these actions may be very strong and very difficult for some pro-Russian military experts, including the military experts of Rybar. And now let's move to the northern Kupiansk direction. We have very important update as we start receiving videos of how the Ukrainians were bombing and attacking the Russian forces on the territory of Petropavlivka. We received this update just before we start making video, so we didn't have enough of time to change the map. We will analyze this video in details, and if the video shows exactly what we're talking about, we will adjust the map in Russian favor, and the adjustments are going to be very big. And furthermore, according to this video, most likely the Russians entered the village of Petropavlivka. And while some changes on the ground, the Russians continue bombing and attacking the Ukrainian positions in Petropavlivka itself and in the city of Kupiansk. In this video we can see the attack of this territory with the ADAP 1500, very heavy explosions, and another temporary deployment point of the armored forces of Ukraine was completely destroyed. On the area in the territory of Kupiansk, during the previous night, few attacks were spotted as well, so something big was destroyed in the territory of the city as well. As for the Suja direction, I reminded that just yesterday the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation reported that they managed to establish complete control over the village by the name of Pokrovsky, and we adjusted the map in Russian favor based on the Minister of Defense report. And today the Russians published the video that confirms additional Russian progress, and in this video we can see Russian vehicles that were moving between Abukhovka, Pokrovsky and Koreneva, and some of the episodes from this video were geolocated exactly in these points. So we don't have any doubts that the village of Pokrovsky was recaptured by the Russians as a result of clashes. Anyway, very interesting. And the most important, we got report that the MiG-31 was redeployed back on the territory of Republic of Belarus. I'll remind you that at the beginning of the special military operation, the Russians were using MiG-31 from Republic of Belarus to attack the territory of Ukraine with the Kinzhal hypersonic missiles. But then there was some conflicts between Belarus and Western countries, and Belarus asked Russia to remove MiG-31 from the territory of this small state. And now the Russians, after 1 year and 1.5 year pause, decided to return these aircrafts back, and maybe the Russians are planning to begin using this type of weapon from the territory of Belarus once again. So let's see what is going to be next. And that's it for the short video on Military Summary Channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.